Sup guys, we are back in Keswick, more specifically Derwentwater, but before you do anything else today, make sure that you like and subscribe as I keep my promise bringing you regular content. I should probably explain what we're doing back here. It wasn't planned actually, so I've got a 15-hour drive where I'm going back to Scotland for a few projects up there, and James, you just rocked back from Nepal, am I right?
I've been everywhere. I was in Nepal, then I was in the Caribbean, then I was just in Armenia.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I've got a 15-hour drive all the way up to Scotland. It's not going to be pleasant, so I need to kind of break it up. So with that said, I thought I'd rock down here. Today, I don't want to say it's void of any strength and conditioning. We were talking about this, weren't we, James? I don't want
Yeah, basically Ross said, I think what we'll do is we'll just do one of those days where it's not really like a set training thing. And I said, Ross, that is your training, is that it's never set. You just do random things that really fuck you up.
It's true.
But also make you super strong. And here we are again.
It's true. The plan is there is no plan. So today, what I wanted to do, I wanted to start off with a cheeky semi-fasted cardio session, really slow, low pace. Reason being, I've just basically been to Liverpool John Moores University, and James Morton, who's the Team Sky Tour de France winning nutritionist, absolute legend. They had me run a bunch of tests just to see whether my body was running well on fats or carbs, basically bioenergetics, where my body was running from, like what sort of energy substrate was it using. And they found that I was really carb adapted, like crazy carb adapted, which just means, you know, that I was used to running on that 120 Gs of carbohydrates every hour on the hour, but I had to religiously hit that because my body didn't have a very good ability to actually use fat as a fuel source. What's really interesting, we were talking about this, weren't we, James, in that there's a lot of fell runners and trail runners who are crazy fat adapted, and they can do, 30 miles fasted, is that right?
Yeah, so we talked about this in the past. Guys, a good example, a local guy, Carl Bell, multiple-time British English champion. Famously, there's a base called the Buttermere Race. It's like, I don't know, it's nearly a marathon, it's 4,000 metres of elevation, and he did it on one jelly baby. And that, for everyone, was like, oh my God, Carl ate something. And it blew our minds. He had one jelly baby, and he didn't drink anything either, it was mental.
He's like a camel.
Yeah. Basically, the man's just some sort of weird robot from the future who's come back to be a fell running champion. It's like Terminator got lost and didn't want to find John Connor. He thought, you know what, I'm just going to get into fell running. But I think it's kind of because people that live around here, you just go out and do it, and you're out for hours and hours, and just as sort of part and parcel, maybe it's part of the culture. You don't take much, you don't want to carry much on you. People are going out with minimal food, kit, hydration, and you just by nature of doing it, you become adapted in that sense to getting by without much. Or maybe he was poor as a child and his parents couldn't afford to feed him. I don't know, we'll have to ask Carl. But basically, whatever it is, the guy's a beast, and he doesn't take any nutrition at all, and it has no effect on his ability. Having said that, maybe if he did eat, we'd find that he was actually 10 times better than Kilian Jornet. But yeah, it's definitely like it feels, and I personally, like, this is my thing, like whenever I go away on my expedition stuff, like I often find that compared to, let's say, the other like Western European guys on the trip, they'll look at me and they're like, you're not drinking, you're not eating. I'm like, I don't need to. I'm probably in that same vein. I'm not quite as extreme as Carl, but I can go all day without food and water, and it doesn't stop me being able to continue to perform. So I'm probably opposite to you. Like, I am absolutely fat adapted, where I don't have much of it, but my body's really good at using it. And if I get carbs in, great. But if I don't, body's fine without it. And I think it's just the nature of your background, of the sport, of your upbringing, of like what you do day to day, whatever it is. But yeah, I normally end up being treated like a local guy overseas when they're like, the local guys aren't drinking, they're not eating, like you're basically one of them. But they'll be in the same position where they've probably been doing it their whole life. And so it's just normal. So yeah. I am going to add one thing. I think Ross's next book should be called The Plan Is, There Is No Plan.
Pre-order. But that's really interesting, because you were saying you're basically, we exist at separate ends of the spectrum. I just think that's really interesting. But that's kind of how I've lost a little bit of weight recently. I think the thing is people go, if you wanted to put a label on it, I suppose it's intermittent fasting, because I'm not eating in the morning, semi-fasted cardio, but that's not the reason. Like you're nursing a calorie deficit, but it's just because you're trying to become a little bit more fat adapted. I think too often people are putting labels on it, and I love what James was just saying there, where people like Carl himself, they just intuitively do it, whereas I think sometimes sort of sports scholars and nutritionists try to put labels on it, whereas in reality I've lost a little bit of weight because I have a bit of a calorie deficit because I'm doing some semi-fasted cardio to become fat adapted and kind of intermittent fasting, so I reduce the window with which I'm eating. Oh no, sorry, do come back, sorry. Thank you though.
That's actually one thing I'd really quickly add as well, is your intent in training is really interesting. So like what Ross just said then, I'm going to film this myself, is that when you're going and doing these things, even having that sense of like, oh, this session is I want to lose weight, or I want to do this, whereas actually if you don't think about it, you'll probably go further, because when we're out training you might be thinking, oh, I'm a bit tired, a bit hungry, but the point isn't whether you're tired or hungry, you're just out to enjoy running. And you come back and yeah, you probably have burnt a few extra calories and you probably have adapted slightly, but that wasn't the point. Whereas if you go into it like, this session is to lose weight, the whole time you're thinking, you're overanalyzing, it puts the wrong intent on, like, unless that is your intent, and that's fine, but yeah, I'll just add that.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. So that is the sort of scientific rationale, if there is one, because like I said, that today we are planning with no plan, but gonna get in zone 2, low intensity, 2 hours maybe, I don't know, really intuitive, just seeing how it feels, and like I said, that the goal is not necessarily fat loss, it's fat adaptation, introducing the idea that your body's kind of going, ooh, hang on, we're not having 120 Gs of carbs every hour on the hour, okay, we have to become a little bit fat adapted. You're just adding that into your arsenal, especially important because I think the last time we were here we had 5 kilos of brownie.
Yeah, it was not, I mean, fat adapted in a different sense. But
this is it.
Yeah, there was food being consumed.
So different training adaptation, but like I said, we're not necessarily trying to lose weight, because after this, I believe we're going to go and attack the Fell Shack, where we're going to probably set a record for the largest burrito ever consumed in Keswick.
Another world record for the book.
Yeah, let's get it.
Let's go.
We're a few K in, and that feels good. It feels good so far. I think my body, you said it best, James, which is just like, we're introducing the idea to my body that, hang on, there's not going to be a brownie delivery in the middle of Derwentwater this time.
I want to see your body's reaction. Like, no, oh, just start swimming back to shore. Give me the fucking brownie.
But yeah, it's different, and I think what's really nice as well is, like, so often when people are training, they just look at metrics, whether it's intervals, rest time, speed, pace, distance, duration. And what's really nice about these sorts of sessions is, like the one with the brownie where we were training out our digestive system, whereas now, similarly, we're training our digestive system, we're training our body to actually use fat as a fuel source, that endogenous fat. So it's nice that you don't have to be so strict with the metrics. You know, there's no, like, pace is irrelevant today, like distance, kind of irrelevant. So it's quite liberating to put these sorts of sessions into your training. Does that make sense, James?
It does. I have a question for you. Last time we were training your body to eat 5 kilos of brownies. I want to know what your body's reaction to eating 5 kilos of brownies was. Like, what was the next week like for you?
Surprisingly good, because it was a good brownie. That was the thing. If you haven't, check out our last video. It was amazing. It was the best way to spend a day here in Keswick, but it was surprisingly good. Like, I think, and that's the thing as well. Sometimes people get too caught up in, like, glucose, fructose, maltodextrin, waxy maize starch. It's just like, it's just carbs. Just get it down you. And I think that's the other thing. That's the one thing I love from fell runners and also, like, friends of mine in the military. Don't overcomplicate it, you know. And when you're really hanging, you're in the hurt locker, your body's not going, is this waxy maize starch or maltodextrin? It's just getting it in. So that's my theory anyway, for what it's worth. So I think we'll start just doing laps of donut water. I think
widths of donut water.
Widths, tumble turn off the turn.
Yeah, let's do it.
Boom.
Ross has been talking. He wants to race one of the launches that's going out and about as well.
I do.
Keep your eyes peeled. There might be a drag race coming.
I think I've got them.
Definitely turn fast. Yeah, there's one over there. I can see it in the distance. Look, it's down the lake.
Are you getting? There's a slight wind, isn't there?
It's a lot choppier than last time. A lot windier than last time.
A little bit.
Yeah, look, you're drifting away. I'm being blown away.
Bye, James.
It was nice knowing you.
Bring me a burrito.
No.
Bring me a burrito.
That's your body talking.
That was pretty good. So just doing widths of the lake, and I don't think the boat knew it was in a drag race, but it was in a drag race with me. I don't think they knew until we were in it. A few people were laughing, hurt my ego a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's fair to say I didn't win that one. Also, as well, I think that I said sort of semi-fasted, slow, low intensity. What was interesting, I didn't have any gears, I felt. So we've been swimming like an hour and a half-ish now. And I found, this is interesting because there's a lot of amazing ultra endurance athletes who recommend going keto or fat adapted, and they're only running on fats. But there are studies, and this is in my experience, but again, sort of looking at how everybody's completely different in terms of like nutrigenomics, how your nutrition interacts with your genetics. Me personally, and studies will say that if you are purely keto, if you are fat, that's great for maintaining that low intensity. For instance, if you were going to, this is so random, trekking across Antarctica, so slow, like low intensity, picking that pace. But if you were in a race and there was an injection of pace, or you were going uphill, a gradient, what I've experienced and what studies say is you don't really have that other gear because it gets glycolytic. When it starts to get anaerobic, when you're performing at an intensity that your body can't actually deliver enough oxygen to the working muscles, it gets glycolytic. Your body needs muscle glycogen, so you don't have those gears. So although that was all fun and games, and I'm still going to go and chase boats, it was funny how I felt I didn't quite have another gear. But, you know, having said that, I think after burrito, come back, I reckon I stand a chance.
I mean, you'll also be lower in the water. You'll be a submarine.
But
We're going to try and make Ross a 2-foot long burrito today. Like a burrito staff. Burrito-pedo. It's never been done before.
But that it feels good. But it's really interesting. My body is going. We don't have as much muscle glycogen as we usually have. So like I said, that gear, that injection of pace, even holding certain biomechanics as well, like really getting like a pull on the water, I feel that it's just missing that. But that's okay, because like I said, that was not the goal of today anyway, like I said. So you should, I definitely don't want to say you should feel weak, you know, but when doing these sorts of sessions, you shouldn't feel at your best.
Yeah, well, you're engineering that body, learning the response to, well, if I feel weak, how do I find another energy source, which is the fat adaptation.
Yes, is exactly it. So yeah, just make peace with the fact that you're not going to set the world alight. And you can probably actually see my stroke is so much more like lethargic and everything's a little bit, but that's okay, because that's not the goal. So tumble turn, off this rock, back, a few more laps, burrito. And if we see a boat, race it.
Well, I'm going to say, you're talking about the fact that you should expect to not feel great, and you're drag racing boats. Like...
that was my ego. That wasn't my...
You shouldn't expect to have top gear. Hey, you over there with your 200 horsepower engine. Let's go! Yeah, let's find someone else.
Yeah, I'm going to pick a smaller boat. I'm going to go and pick...
There's a couple of little pleasure cruisers, 5 horsepower. Let's find them.
Oh, no. What about a pedalo?
Yeah,
I reckon
okay.
I might be able to take a pedalo. Watch this. Wait there. This is going to be worth it. You ready? This is gonna, sorry, keep the camera rolling. I promise this is worth it. No.
6 are swimming, I think.
I thought that was gonna skim more than it did. About 90 minutes. Do you know what's really interesting now is it's almost like so intuitive, like that physiological intuition, that my body's kind of going, hang on, we're not getting 120 grams of carbs every hour on the hour. So you're finding like movement efficiency. I know we were speaking about this, weren't we? On the GB swim, my swim stroke, it was like a chubby whale. It wasn't like pretty, you just go like that and then lats engage, rather than like high elbows getting over it. It was just almost this really ugly but efficient stroke. And I think that's one thing that I'm kind of experiencing now. Heart rate, it's gone like, it hasn't gone over 120, but it's so slow and just cruisy. So it feels quite good. Do you find that on your runs? Will you do that?
Well, I mean, yeah, fell runners are never going at Usain Bolt sprint pace unless they're running downhill. When we're doing it for free, because we talked about in the past about using gravity, and when you're actually out, again, it's about efficiency. Like every bit of movement you're making, the trail you're on, the way you're placing your feet, you're never caning it unless it's a half an hour race.
Yes.
You're always preserving your energy at every point, because most fell races you're out for at least 60, 90, 120 minutes. It's your main goal is efficiency of movement from A to B, not out and out speed, not sprinters.
That's what's really interesting, is the fatigue that I've induced through being sort of semi-fasted today has made me more efficient. So in fatigue, you find a more efficient stroke because you don't have a choice. It's almost like sharks. The sharks can swim, I believe, coming out of the water like a corkscrew at 40 kilometers an hour, I think. But when they're migrating, they'll be doing like 3 kilometers an hour, which as a percentage of their overall pace, it's so slow. So I think that's what's really interesting, that I've almost gone back to the GB swim pace, which is just real, like I said, like whale-like migration. It doesn't look pretty, it's not impressive, but it's efficient.
Yeah, a whale will migrate 10,000 miles, so he knows what he's doing.
It is, isn't it? And that's what it is. And I think that's what's really interesting as well, because as soon as, like, everyone's kind of guilty of it in a swimming pool and everything like that, or even running on a treadmill, you run, with your chest out, perfect biomechanics, forefoot striking, but after 8 hours, it's not so pretty, and all of a sudden that chest isn't out, you're not forefoot striking, but it's efficient, and it's an honest expression of movement. That was, honest expression of movement. Now, where's this burrito? Okay, moment of truth. As you know, I've been trying to lose weight, not strictly, not like really kind of giving myself a hard time about it, but I would just like to improve the laws of hydrodynamics in my favor. Just be a little bit more buoyant, so losing a little bit of muscle mass, a little bit of just bulk. So like I said, not strictly really dieting, don't like that word. And then also as well, we touched upon so many sort of principles today, from semi-fasted cardio, learning to be a bit more fat adapted, introducing the idea that your body's kind of going, oh, we're not having 120 grams of carbohydrates every hour on the hour, or a 5 kilo brownie like last time. So with all of that kind of going on, losing weight is a pleasant byproduct. And I think that's really nice, that you don't really get too caught up on it, because my goal is performance, and weight loss is happening as a result of that. Whereas I think too often people just have weight loss as the goal, which for me, it can feel quite fragile. It can feel quite shallow. I don't mean it in, shallow as in kind of like, it just means that you can go and have a massive burrito and then all of a sudden the scales have gone up and then you feel bad about yourself and stuff. And it's like, no, if the goal is performance, weight loss is a pleasant byproduct. So I'm hoping, like I said, I did a video not too long ago and I was 92 kilos. I'm hoping I am a petite, svelte, hydrodynamic, sub 90. Boom! 89.8.
I just want to say for everyone watching that these are a special set of scales for Ross, and you actually have to add a 0 to the end of it. He's just under a ton. I just feel 819.
I feel high. Do you know what? And what's going to be nice if we go for a run a little bit later as well, because sometimes me and Gravity don't get on when we're fell running, so that's going to be really nice as well. So it's a functional 89. I still feel strong in the gym, but I'm also kind of feeling a little bit hydrodynamic in the water. Also, we were just saying as well, what would be kind of cool, so this is 24 hours in the fells. We're going to do a few videos. I'm going to jump on the scales throughout today, just because I think that might make a really interesting point that sort of body composition and body weight are very different. Body composition being muscle mass, body fat, whereas body weight is just a numerical reflection of your relationship with gravity. You know, that's all it is. So I was at 89.8. I'm about to go and attack a burrito. I'm semi-fasted right now, probably muscle glycogen a little bit depleted. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Burrito, hydrated, back on the scale. So that's going to be a nice sort of byproduct message that I didn't intend on this whole series. So this is probably going to be the end of video 1. Like, subscribe, and I'm going to go and find a burrito.